Today we will be taking a look at Jordan Peterson revealing the secret behind easily finding a partner. Dr. Peterson reveals the truth about the connection of dominance hierarchies and finding partners, which is crucial information you need to get a partner, so make sure you like and subscribe. Watch to the end because this is life-changing, but now let's check it out.
So when I was an undergraduate at the University of Alberta, I had some success with women, but not much. And then I went to McGill and I was a graduate student, and nothing changed really in the couple of months between when I was a senior undergraduate in Alberta and when I was a low-level graduate student in Montreal. But how attractive women were to me changed a lot. And I thought, well, that's not you, that's something about status. And I already knew that the evolutionary theory there, and that women are more affected by, let's say, social status in relationship to sexual attractiveness than men are. But then I thought that through too, and I thought, no, women use status as a marker for the ability to gain status in novel environments. It's something like that. And so like an expensive watch or something like that, or a nice suit, shows that you have acquired resources and hints that you still could, even if things fell apart. So it's not mere power or even resources, which it's often parodied at and sometimes understood as. It's a proximal marker for something much deeper. So like if you look at human social hierarchies, and this is true across the animal kingdom, and then you rank order individuals in terms of their relative status, even in relatively non-social creatures that have to occupy the same territory, those that have the best local niches have offspring that are much more likely to survive. They have much lower mortality rates. And then there's something else too that psychologists have figured out that I think is right, that has a biological underpinning, which is that your serotonin system is more effective at modulating your negative emotion given a certain level of stress the higher you are up in the social hierarchy, because you're actually safer. And so part of what that implies, and this just blew me away when I sorted it out, was that when you go after someone's beliefs and they've used their beliefs to stake a claim to a position in a hierarchy, you're attacking the structure that modulates their sensitivity to negative emotion. And if you're hypersensitive to negative emotion, you hyper prepare physiologically so much that you die way earlier. So this isn't trivial. And it isn't like the terror management theorists think that, your beliefs somehow regulate your anxiety directly. It's no, you have a set of beliefs that gives you a stake to a claim in a status hierarchy. And so that's what we do as professors, right? We say, well, look, we have this knowledge, and that's why we get this niche. Well, then I attack the validity of your knowledge, then I make you out to be one of those fly-in bowerbirds that just ripped off the status hierarchy. And then that interferes with your emotional regulation. That's that's worth thinking about for about 10 years. That partly what the woman is trying to do is use markers of proximal success as an indicator of niche switching capacity. Now, they're inadequate markers, and that's partly why they can be criticized, they're no more accurate than the claim that just because you're rich, you're good. But but status is not exactly wealth, although wealth is a proxy for status. Status is more subtle. But symbols of wealth are pretty good instantaneous proxies for status. They're subject to all sorts of flaws and they're not sufficient, but you have to screen most people out, so you need simple markers to begin with. There's a set of qualities that makes it more probable that you'll get to the top of a dominance hierarchy. Now, that's not that hard to imagine, right? You might think, well, intelligence might have something to do with that. Attractiveness might have something to do with that. Power. We know from studies of chimps, this is mostly done by Franz de Waal, that, because you might think of a kind of prototypical caveman society, that it's like the caveman that looks most like a bodybuilder who's the most dominant caveman, but so to speak. But what de Waal found among the chimps was that the chimp who was at the top of the male dominance hierarchy, who remained at the top relatively stably so that he wasn't brutally murdered, say, by two chimps that were below him in the dominance hierarchy, was actually
kind of a good leader in some sense, you know. So he got along well with the females in the troop and maybe even attended to their children to some degree. And he wasn't a completely unpredictable tyrant. And if he was like that, then, you know, a couple of male chimps would form a coalition, and when his back was turned at any moment, then they'd rip him to pieces. And so that's really, it's phenomenally interesting, because what it suggests is that there's a stable set of characteristics, relatively stable, that are operative within a dominance hierarchy that propels you to the top. And that's characteristic not only of human dominance hierarchies, but it's also characteristic in a way that's analogous to even chimp dominance hierarchy. Okay, so that's kind of an interesting idea, right? There's a set of stable traits that propels you towards the top. And some of those would be indicators of biological health, like symmetry and beauty. And some of them would be, well, what other characteristics the rest of the bloody troop think are admirable. And because admirable is also a very interesting phenomenon, right? Because there are people you admire. You think, well, why are there people that you admire? And what does it mean to admire someone? And what it means in some sense is that the effect they have on you is one of wanting to imitate. And, you know, human beings, a lot of our knowledge, a tremendous amount of our knowledge, isn't propagated linguistically, it's propagated through imitation. And the probability that we were imitating each other before we developed language is extremely high. And we're also one of the few animals, maybe the only animal, that are really capable of true imitation. And it's a major league advance in terms of the transformation of information, because what it means is you can go out there and half kill yourself learning how to do something and stumble back into the tribe and recover, and then I can just watch you and embody what you did, and poof, I've got the damn information, and, you know, I didn't have to expose myself to dragons and all sorts of other horrible things that were out there in the unknown. And so, you know, we're imitating ourselves all the time. So if you admire someone, what that does is it hooks into your desire to imitate. And that's also part of an inbuilt intrinsic biological process. Okay, now, fine, so here's what we're going to say. Dominance hierarchy. Reason for getting to the top. That produces admiration, partly because people want to be at the top of a dominance hierarchy. That's success. And we're wired to climb dominance hierarchies, because if you live at the top of a dominance hierarchy, you live longer than you do if you live at the bottom of a dominance hierarchy. Even if you factor out the effect of relative income. It's less stressful at the top. You have better resources at the top. And the top is a place, right? Because it's been around for 400 million years. It's a place. It's like a conceptual place in a sense, or it's a place that's the emergent property of social organization. But it's a place. And it's a place where people want to go. Okay, you got a dominance hierarchy. Someone gets to the top, you admire them. All right. But that's not exactly what human beings are like. First of all, there isn't one dominance hierarchy. There's hundreds of the bloody things, especially as society